You've already seen it happen right in front of your eyes. The meeting completely falls apart. Smiles vanish from faces. Voices rise. Someone slams a folder on the table. Another one throws their pen aggressively across the room. And there's this one person in the corner who just doesn't move. No flushed cheeks, no trembling hands, no defensive words fired back. They seem almost confused, completely indifferent to the chaos unfolding around them. Nobody prepared them for this moment. Nobody handed them a script. And yet, they're the only person in that room who seems to be breathing normally. If you've ever watched someone like that and thought, but what is wrong with them? You were asking the right question, just the wrong way. Because people who genuinely never lose their calm aren't suppressing anything. They're not numb. They're not checked out. Something structurally very different is happening inside their nervous system. Something psychology is only just beginning to analyze, to take seriously, and some of what researchers have found will completely change the way you see control, emotion, and what being truly strong actually means. Here's the myth you were handed without ever asking for it: that staying calm means not caring, that the person who doesn't react is either cold, disconnected, or quietly plotting something. That real passion, real courage looks like raised voices and slamming doors. Movies taught you that. So did every argument you ever heard or watched, where the loudest person in the room was treated like the most invested one. But neuroscience has completely dismantled that story for decades. And what it found underneath is radically different from anything you imagine. So set your assumptions aside, because this first sign on its own can transform the way you perceive everything the moment you walk into a room. Sign 1. Their brain names the fire before it spreads. In the early 2000s, neuroscientist Matthew Lieberman at UCLA ran a study that changed the way researchers understand emotional regulation. He showed participants images specifically designed to trigger strong emotional reactions, then watched what happened inside their brains in real time. For most participants, the amygdala, the brain's alarm system, lit up like a house on fire. But when participants were asked to name what they were feeling, something remarkable happened. The prefrontal cortex activated, and the amygdala cooled down almost immediately. The simple act of putting a word on an emotion stopped its grip on the body. Psychologists call this affect labeling. People who stay calm under pressure do this automatically, without thinking, while your nervous system is still trying to identify the threat. Theirs has already named it, filed it, and started deciding what to do next. They're not less emotional. They process emotions faster, and that 1 second advantage changes everything, absolutely everything. But that's just the mechanism. The real gap lives in the next sign. Sign 2, they don't fight the moment. They already accepted it. People assume calm people are optimists, that they stay composed because they expect things to go well. That's usually exactly backwards. Researchers studying Stoic philosophy and modern cognitive behavioral therapy found the same pattern, independently of each other. The people least shaken by a crisis or any difficult event are the ones who mentally rehearsed it before it arrived, not obsessively, not anxiously, but clearly. They already asked themselves, what is the worst realistic version of this situation? And they sat with that answer long enough until it lost its teeth. So when the worst version actually shows up, it's not a surprise. It's a scenario they already lived through in their head. Psychologists call this negative visualization. The Stoics called it premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. The calm person at the center of every crisis isn't calm because nothing serious is happening. They're calm because nothing happening is worse than what they already imagined. The chaos around them is just new information, something that feels far too familiar, and that changes your entire relationship with panic. But There's something deeper underneath all of this, something almost nobody talks about. Sign 3, they know exactly where they end and where the problem begins. Tell me if this sounds familiar. Someone in your life is upset, and within 30 seconds, you are too. Not because anything happened to you directly, but because their emotional state walked into the room and settled inside your chest without asking. People who don't lose their calm have an unusually defined internal boundary between themselves and the emotional weather around them. Psychologist Murray Bowen called this differentiation of self, the ability to stay connected to people without being emotionally fused to them, to care without absorbing, to witness without becoming. Most people have a porous membrane when it comes to emotions. Someone else's panic seeps through it in seconds. Calm people have a thicker wall, not a wall that keeps people out, a wall that keeps them in. They can sit with someone in full crisis, hear every word, feel the weight of it, and still return to their own center when the conversation ends. What most people spend years building in therapy, that separation between empathy and contamination, calm people developed early, often without ever knowing it had a name. But here's what makes this sign dangerous. If you're not paying attention, the question that makes you uncomfortable, everything described in this video is real, but there are two completely different roads that lead to the same exterior, the same result. The first case is a person who stays calm because they did the internal work, because they learned to process, to name, to accept, because their nervous system is regulated and their sense of self is stable. The second case is a person who stays calm because they disconnected a long time ago, because feeling nothing felt safer than feeling too much, because somewhere along the way they confused numbness with strength. From the outside, both cases look identical. So ask yourself, honestly, when something hard happens, do you feel it and move through it, or do you simply not feel it at all? One is regulation. The other is a wall that's been standing so long you forgot you were the one who built it. If your calm feels like peace, keep watching. If it feels more like a wall between you and your emotions, like deliberate distance, that deserves more attention, maybe with someone who can help you look at it clearly, because the last two signs only belong to the first case. Sign 4, they have a different relationship with being wrong. Most people handle being wrong badly. It hits like a punch, barely concealed shame, immediate defensiveness before the other person even finishes their sentence. Watch what a genuinely calm person does when they're corrected. It's striking to observe. They pause. They actually consider what was just said. Sometimes they say you're right, with the same energy most people use to order a coffee. Researcher Carol Dweck at Stanford spent decades studying what she called growth mindset, but buried inside her data was something more precise. People with the highest emotional resilience shared one core belief. Their identity was not attached to their conclusions. They could change their mind, update their opinions without any problem, without feeling like they were losing themselves. For most people, being wrong threatens the self. Every correction is an attack on who they are. So the nervous system responds accordingly. Cortisol, defensiveness, heat. Calm people separated their ego from their opinions a long time ago. They hold their beliefs like tools, not like organs. You can put a tool down without bleeding. That's why they don't argue the way other people argue. They're not defending territory, they're just looking for what's true. Sign 5. They chose their anchor before the storm arrived. You've noticed what happens when someone with no real sense of self goes through a hard time. They reach for whatever is closest. Other people's opinions, old grudges, worst case scenarios, endless noise. Calm people already know what they're reaching for before they ever need it. With a deeply anchored internal value, something that answers the question, who am I in this moment, before panic ever gets the chance to answer first. Psychologist Viktor Frankl shared his experience in a book. After surviving things most people cannot imagine, he observed that the people who endured the worst without breaking were not the strongest physically. They were the ones who carried something inside them that the situation could not reach. A meaning, a commitment, a why that was bigger than the what happening around them. Calm is not the absence of pressure. It's the presence of something that pressure cannot touch. That's why their small circle isn't a limitation. It's a chosen audience. That's why they don't need the room's approval to know how to stand. That's why when everything around them is falling apart, they seem somehow already whole. Now, take a step back. A nervous system that names emotions before they explode. A mind that already made peace with the worst outcome. A self with clear enough edges that other people's chaos can't rewrite it. An ego loose enough to be wrong without breaking. And an anchor set long before the weather turned. This is not coldness. This is not detachment. This is not cruelty. This is not someone who doesn't care. This is someone who knows so deeply who they are that they let nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing, decide for them. The world will keep mistaking their stillness for weakness. People will keep pushing to get a reaction as if getting one would prove something, as if the loudest response were the most honest one. But inside all that noise, calm people already know what most people spend an entire lifetime searching for. They know you don't have to be moved by everything, to be moved by what truly matters. And that, quietly, without announcement, is one of the hardest things a human being can ever reign.